A mafia boss braced for a loveless arranged marriage until the bride's veil drop-stopped his heart. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. The back room of Club Noir was thick with cigar smoke and unspoken threats. Kevin Norris, 38 years old, dark-eyed, impeccably tailored, stood facing men who'd killed for less than what they were demanding now. "You can't force me into this," he said, his voice flat as a blade. Don Castellano folded his hands calmly. "It's not force, Kevin. It's survival. Sign the marriage contract or watch the city burn. Your brother's funeral was 3 weeks ago. How many more bodies do you want?" Kevin's jaw tightened. The war between their families had claimed 17 lives in 6 months. His younger brother Damien was the latest casualty, gunned down as a message. The leather folder slid across the table. Contract terms stared back at him. 1 year minimum, 5 public appearances, complete loyalty, bride's identity protected until the ceremony. Kevin thought of the woman who'd betrayed him 2 years ago, Elena, who'd sold information to his enemies after he trusted her. Love was a weapon. He wouldn't give anyone that target again. But he thought of his mother too, begging him from her hospital bed, "End this before I bury another son." He picked up the pen. What are the terms? Public unity, no interference in personal lives, and the bride remains anonymous until the altar, her family's requirement for protection. Kevin signed with steady hands, sealing his fate in ink. A loveless marriage, a strategic move, nothing more. He had no idea that when the veil lifted, everything he believed about control and fate would shatter in a single, devastating moment. The week before the wedding moved like a countdown to execution. Kevin's penthouse filled with security teams instead of wedding planners. Threat assessments replaced flower arrangements. His world of violence and strategy couldn't be softened by silk and ceremony. At the venue rehearsal, Kevin overheard staff whispering, "She's terrified." She asked if there's still a way out. Something unexpected stirred in his chest. She's trapped too. Leaving the rehearsal, Kevin nearly collided with a woman in the corridor. She carried a small package, moved quickly, head down. When she looked up, her dark eyes met his without the usual fear people showed. She took in his armed guards and simply whispered, "I'm sorry," before disappearing through a side door. Her voice lingered, gentle, familiar somehow. Back at his penthouse that night, Kevin stared at the contract on his table. Beside it sat a photo of Damien, grinning and alive. The guilt twisted in his chest. This marriage ends the war. That has to be enough. But that woman's voice echoed in his mind like a warning he couldn't decode. He closed his eyes, unaware that tomorrow would bring the woman whose hands had once held his life together while he bled out on an operating table. The woman who'd shown him humanity when his world was only darkness. The wedding day arrived cold and tense. Kevin stood in his preparation room, dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit, looking every inch the powerful mafia boss. But inside, restlessness clawed at him. Marco entered, his expression grave. "Perimeter's secure. Castellano family is here with their security. You ready for this, boss?" "Does it matter?" Kevin replied quietly. The armored convoy arrived at the private estate, a fortress disguised as a wedding venue. Guests from both families filled the ceremony hall, their polite faces hiding generations of bloodshed and rivalry. Kevin took his position at the altar, hands clasped behind his back, expression controlled. But his pulse wasn't steady. The music shifted. The doors opened. The bride appeared. She moved down the aisle in ivory silk, a delicate veil obscuring her face completely. Her steps were measured, but Kevin could see her hands trembling around the bouquet. Something about her presence pulled at him, the set of her shoulders, the quiet strength beneath obvious fear. When she reached him, he heard her uneven breathing beneath the veil. Without thinking, Kevin lowered his voice. "You're safe here." Her breath caught. She nodded, a tiny movement of gratitude. The officiant spoke the traditional words. Kevin responded mechanically, his attention fixed on the woman beside him. "And now," the officiant said, "the bride may lift her veil." The hall fell silent. Her hands rose, trembling slightly. The lace caught the candlelight as it drifted upward. Kevin's world stopped. It was her. The ER nurse from 2 years ago. The woman who'd saved his life during the ambush. Her hands pressing against his wounds, her calm voice cutting through his pain. "Stay with me. You're going to make it." Those same expressive dark eyes stared at him now, wide with the same recognition flooding through him. Madeline. "Hello, Kevin," she whispered. I didn't know it was you until yesterday." Kevin couldn't breathe, couldn't process it. The bride he'd expected to meet with cold detachment was the only person who'd ever shown him genuine compassion. The ceremony continued in a blur. When they walked down the aisle together, Kevin's hand at her back, only one thought consumed him. Fate just delivered back the woman who saved me. In a private alcove away from the guests, Madeline turned to face Kevin, her composure cracking. "I tried to back out when I learned it was you," she said, her voice strained. "But my father, he has gambling debts. They told him the debts would be forgiven if I married you. And if I refused..." Her voice broke. "My sister Emma, she's 17. They were going to sell her to traffickers." Kevin felt rage and understanding war inside him. "So you agreed to save her." "I didn't have a choice." Tears glistened in her eyes. "And you? Why did you agree to this?" "War," Kevin said simply. "My brother was killed. 17 people dead in 6 months. This marriage was the only way to end it." "So, we're both prisoners," Madeline whispered. Before Kevin could respond, a voice cut through the moment. "Well, well." The mysterious bride. Marco stood in the doorway, his expression cold with suspicion. Other men flanked him, Kevin's inner circle. "Madeline Myers Karshahari," Marco continued, moving closer. "Emergency room nurse at Metropolitan Hospital. The same hospital where our boss was taken after the Castellano ambush 2 years ago." He let that hang. How convenient. Madeline went pale, understanding the accusation immediately. Kevin stepped between them. "Careful, Marco." "I'm saying what everyone's thinking. She had access to you when you were vulnerable. She could be a plant, someone the Castellanos positioned years ago for exactly this moment." "She saved my life," Kevin said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Or she was told to earn your trust." Kevin's control snapped. He moved forward, his presence lethal. "Speak about my wife like that again, and you'll answer to me personally." Marco's eyes widened. Kevin had never threatened him before. The tension held for a long moment before Marco stepped back. "As you say, boss, but the damage was done. In their world, suspicion was poison." When they were alone again, Madeline trembled. "They think I'm here to hurt you, and if they believe that..." "I won't let anything happen to you," Kevin said fiercely. "You're under my protection now. Anyone who touches you answers to me." "Why?" she whispered. You barely know me because you saw me bleeding and dying, and you chose to save me anyway. That changes everything. The reception hall glowed with crystal and candlelight, a beautiful cage filled with dangerous predators. Kevin sat beside Madeline at the head table, positioned between both families. Every conversation was calculated, every smile strategic. Halfway through the meal, Don Castellano rose with his wineglass. "Unity requires trust," he said smoothly, his gaze sliding to Madeline. "Perhaps the new Mrs. Norris would tell us about herself? What qualifies her to stand beside Kevin Norris?" It was a test, a challenge. Madeline stood, her voice quiet but steady. "I'm a nurse. I come from a family that made mistakes and accumulated debts. And I'm here because..." The doors burst open violently. A disheveled, drunk man stumbled through. Thomas Myers, Madeline's father. "Madeline!" he shouted. "You can't do this to her. She doesn't want this." Security moved to intercept, but Thomas pushed forward desperately. "I forced her!" he shouted to the entire room. "She's only here because I'm a coward who gambled everything away." "She sacrificed herself to save her sister from being sold to pay my debts," gasps erupted. Whispers spread like wildfire. Madeline's face drained of all color, humiliation washing over her. "The marriage is built on coercion," someone said loudly. "She has no loyalty. She could be leveraged." "She's a weakness," another voice added. Kevin watched Madeline curl inward, watched her trying to disappear, and something inside him broke free. He stood moving to block her from the crowd's view. Then he turned to face them all. Don Castellano, Marco, every calculating face watching for weakness. "Let me make something very clear," Kevin said, his voice carrying absolute authority. "What you just heard wasn't weakness. It was courage." Confused silence. Madeline didn't manipulate her way here. She made a conscious choice to sacrifice her freedom to protect her family. That's not cowardice, that's strength. And those are the qualities I value. He let the words settle. My wife is under my absolute protection. Anyone who threatens her, questions her loyalty, or attempts to use her as leverage will answer directly to me. His voice dropped to lethal quiet. And you all know what that means. The threat was unmistakable. Don Castellano studied him, then slowly nodded. "A man who protects what he claims. That's acceptable." Kevin turned to Madeline, extending his hand. "Come with me." She took it, and they walked through the silent crowd together. In the armored SUV heading back to the city, Kevin spoke quietly. 2 years ago, you pressed your hands against my wounds and told me to stay with you. I've thought about that moment more than you know." He lifted his shirt slightly, revealing the scar near his heart. "You saved my life once," Kevin said, his voice rough with emotion. "Now I'll spend mine keeping you safe. That's not a contract. That's a promise." Madeline's fingers touched the scar gently, the physical proof of their connection across time. "I don't understand any of this," she whispered. "Neither do I," Kevin admitted. "But maybe we just choose to stand together anyway." She looked up at him, and something shifted between them in the dim light. The contract no longer felt like chains. It felt like choosing each other deliberately against all logic. It felt like the beginning of something real. In a world where trust was fatal and weakness was death, they chose each other anyway. And that choice changed everything. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up and let us know in the comments what you'd like to see next. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more dramatic stories. Until next time.